Right. So 11th Five Plan was 2007 to 12. Congress government in power from 2004. Manmohan Singh's government. Manmohan Singh, an accidental prime minister, right? Not somebody who meant to be, but with Sonia Gandhi refusing to take power, right? Manmohan Singh was chosen. An economist, previous experience as an IAS officer, was governor Reserve Bank, and then chosen to be finance minister. Was finance minister at a point of time where India transitioned its economy to comes with a huge administrative and governmental experience. Now the prime minister of the country, right, had plans to build India re-emerging to the new millennium, and he made many of them possible. 2007 to 2012 was a period where the focus of the planning commission was. Now, two things that we start before we look. By the 11th Fire Plan, which is your 2007, within the planning commission, there was a clear thought that the structure of the planning commission is old. Now, when had the planning commission started? 1950. India became independent 1947. It is 60 years past independence. We are having a planning commission structure, which is a very old structure. This India is a new India. The world is a new world. The whole economy is in the new shape of how economy functions. So there is need to change the structure, nature of how planning commission functions. He thought 2007 in E basis within the planning commission, there was a subgroup that was set up to work on the structure and nature of planning commission, how this can be reformed, how a new structure and nature can be worked upon. This was something that was taken into right. So they were already. What was the igniting thought, or what pushed the government to think towards this? In the same year 2007, China had a planning commission. China renamed its planning commission into National Reforms Commission. China renamed its planning commission into National Reforms Commission. So this became a trigger based on which India also appointed a subcommittee into planning commission so that the old structure of planning commission can change. This was one major item. Meanwhile, we continued. Now the planning commission had to do its work effectively. So the 11th Fire Plan had a theme. The theme of the 11th Fire Plan was faster, sustainable, inclusive growth. This is a very carefully designed plan. Montek Singh Ahluwalia was the vice chairman of the planning commission. He was a very senior economist. Manmohan Singh, in fact, tried to make him the finance secretary. He did not have the power enough to make him the finance minister because Chidambaram was a very strong competent there, and he was a very senior politician who had already had rich administrative experience, also rich experience in government. But he tried to make him the finance secretary. In fact, in public administration, there is a terminology used called lateral entry, which is in common parlance of governance also. What is lateral entry? You bring private sector expertise directly into the government. Correct? Generally, how does the government work? You grow in cycles of your IAS, and then you take positions of joint secretary, assistant secretary, then you come into additional secretary and then secretarial positions. So to become a secretary of a department takes a continuous growth in the cycle. That as an IAS officer, you start from a DC of a district, then grow into different positions in your own state, gain central empanelment, from central appointment where you become a joint secretary, and then continuously grow in cycles to become secretary of a department. So it's a continuous growth. There is always a discussion in governance circles, which is a common thought of GS paper 2, where there is now a question that why shouldn't we get private sector expertise into governance, which is called lateral entry. Lateral entry simple means that they need not come through UPSC, and as such, at a point of time, given the experience that they have in private sector, they should be directly taken into government, which will benefit the government. The first such attempt was made by Manmohan Singh of making the same Montek Singh Ahluwalia finance secretary. He wanted him as finance secretary. But the IAS lobby was so strong that they opposed it, that you cannot bring anybody from outside and make him the finance secretary. There are positive negatives of it. After which the same Montek Singh Ahluwalia was appointed as vice chairperson of, deputy chairperson of the planning commission. And the theme of the 11th Fire Plan was faster, sustainable and inclusive growth. Okay. So what is the meaning? You want a sustainable growth, right? By then the theme of sustainable development was very strong. Remember in the 8th Fire Plan, we also discussed about Earth Summit and UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, correct? We discussed this. United Nations Convention on Sustainable Development, Convention on Conservation of Biodiversity, all these 4 major summits had happened. So sustainable development was one thought that was in famous public parlance and how that can be worked on. So faster, sustainable, inclusive growth was in larger discussion. So sustainable growth and inclusive growth. Inclusive growth is an idea of how you take everybody along, every section of the society along. Because the major challenge post 2000 in the new millennium for the world and India in specific was poverty was decreasing. The poverty that was there in the last 50 years had come down, but inequality was increasing. Right? The difference between the rich and poor, the gap between the rich and poor from gender perspective, class perspective was increasing. Caste was no more the biggest differentiating factor. Class was the biggest differentiating factor. So inclusive growth so that you reach every section of the society. So this became the major theme. On this basis, right, they now wanted to start specific schemes and programs that will benefit, and they initiated on what they called as flagship programs or flagship schemes. So 11th Five-Year Plan saw the beginning of what is as flagship schemes. So flagship schemes became the major talk point of the 11th Five-Year Plan in terms of multiple schemes that were launched. So what is flagship scheme? Flagship schemes are large schemes that will be implemented across the country in the same scale. Large schemes that will be implemented across the country in the same scale. Okay, let's list down the schemes and let's try to understand each one of them. The first major scheme that came across was Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, NREGA. Okay. The next major one was National Rural Health Mission, NRHM. Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. Then NRHM, National Rural Livelihood Mission. Then we had NRLM, which is National Rural Livelihood Mission. National Rural Health Mission, National Rural Livelihood Mission. Okay. Then we had what is seen as the Jawaharlal Nehru National Urban Rejuvenation Mission, JNURM, National Urban Rejuvenation Mission. Specific to housing, we had 2 major programs, which was Rajiv Awas Yojana and Indira Awas Yojana. Rajiv Awas Yojana for urban housing and Indira Awas Yojana for rural housing. Sanitation wise, remember, first one was started during the 6th Five-Year Plan where Rajiv Gandhi started what was called as Community Rural Sanitation Campaign, which Vajpayee continued as Total Sanitation Campaign. During this time period, this became Nirmal Bharat Abhiyan. Nirmal Bharat Abhiyan. Agriculture perspective, we had Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana, which was a flagship idea. National Food Security Mission. Rajiv Gandhi Gramin Vidyutikaran Yojana. Rajiv Gandhi Gramin Vidyutikaran Yojana. Panchayat Sashактikaran Abhiyan. Panchayat Sashактikaran Abhiyan. Then we had what was called as National Mission for Empowerment of Women. So these were major flagship programs. Apart from this, we had initiated upon targeted programs which was called as National Mission on E-Governance. National Mission on E-Governance. Specific to environment orientation, we initiated on what is called as National Action Plan on Climate Change. National Action Plan on Climate Change. These were some specific programs that came across. Okay. So these were the larger development programs that were initiated during the 11th Five-Year Plan as flagship programs and targeted programs that came across. Okay. As such, 2007 to 2012.